The stars had never felt so quiet. Across the vast galaxy, thousands of civilizations lived, traded, and fought small wars. The Galactic Council believed they had control over everything. They believed they understood every danger. They were wrong. Far away, on the edge of known space, a human station floated alone. It was small compared to the great fleets of other species, but it was important, very important. Inside the station, warning lights were flashing. Red. Again and again, a young officer stood frozen, staring at the main screen. His hands were shaking. Signal confirmed, he whispered. Behind him, the station commander stepped forward. His face was calm, but his eyes were not. "Play it," the commander said. The officer nodded and pressed a button. The screen flickered. At first, there was only static. Then a voice, broken, distorted, and full of fear. "This is Exploration Fleet KX-77. We have entered Sector 7. The message cut for a second, then came back louder. "It's not empty. Repeat. Sector 7 is not empty." The room went silent. Everyone stopped breathing. The voice continued. "We found structures, ancient, bigger than anything we have ever seen." A loud sound echoed in the recording, like metal tearing apart. Then someone screamed. "They are waking up." The transmission glitched again, requesting immediate static. Then one final line came through, weak and almost gone. They were never dead. They were waiting. The message ended. No one moved. No one spoke. The commander slowly turned away from the screen. "How long ago?" he asked. The officer checked the data. 6 hours, he replied. And no further signals. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. 6 hours was too long. If the fleet was still alive, they would have sent something. Anything. But there was nothing. Only silence. The commander took a deep breath. "Open emergency channel to Earth Command." The officer hesitated. "Sir, do we go straight to Earth?" The commander looked at him. "Yes," he said firmly. "We don't send this to the council first." The officer understood. Everyone in that room understood. Because humans had one rule about Sector 7. Never go there. And if someone did, call Earth immediately. The signal was sent. Across space, faster than any normal communication. Back to the blue planet that most of the galaxy still underestimated. On Earth, deep under layers of security, a hidden facility received a message. The room was dark, filled with screens and silent people. An alarm started. Not loud, but urgent. A man sitting in the center opened his eyes. He had been waiting for this. For years. "Play the message," he said quietly. The same broken voice filled the room. "This is Exploration Fleet KX-77. No one reacted. They had heard worse. But when the last line came, "They were never dead. They were waiting." The silence became heavier. The man stood up slowly. "Seal all outgoing civilian channels," he ordered. "Activate Protocol Black." The people in the room moved instantly. No questions. No hesitation. One of them finally spoke. "Sir, should we inform the Galactic Council?" The man paused. Then he shook his head. "No," he said. "They were warned." Days passed. The galaxy continued as normal. Trade ships moved. Planets lived their lives. And the Galactic Council stayed unaware until the first disappearance. A cargo fleet, traveling near Sector 7, suddenly vanished. No signal. No wreckage. Just gone. At first, no one worried. Space was dangerous. Accidents happened. But then another fleet disappeared. And another. Soon, whispers began to spread. Something was wrong. The council called for a meeting. Representatives from many species gathered in a massive hall. Bright lights. Tall figures. Different shapes and forms. And among them, a human. He stood quietly, watching, listening. The discussion was loud. Pirates. "No, this is a system failure. Impossible. Our technology cannot fail like this." Everyone had a theory. Everyone had an answer, except the human. Finally, one of the council leaders turned toward him. "You have been silent," the leader said. Does Earth have nothing to say? The room grew quiet. All eyes moved to the human. He stepped forward slowly. His face showed no fear, only seriousness. Yes, he said, Earth has something to say. He paused, choosing his words carefully. You are sending ships into Sector 7. Some council members laughed. Yes, of course, one of them replied. It is unclaimed space. The human shook his head. It is not unclaimed. The laughter stopped. It was sealed, he continued, for a reason. Another voice spoke, louder this time. Sealed? By who? The human looked around the room. By us. For a second, no one reacted. Then the room filled with noise. You? Humans? That is impossible. The human did not raise his voice. He did not argue. He only said one thing. We were holding it back. Silence fell again. But this time, it was different. Not laughter. Not anger. Something else. Confusion. The council leader leaned forward. What exactly were you holding back? He asked. The human took a breath. Then he answered. Something that should never wake up. A chill moved through the room. But pride is a powerful thing. And the galaxy had too much of it. One of the representatives stood up. This is fear talk, he said. There is no evidence. Others agreed. Yes, we have seen nothing. Just empty space. The human nodded slowly. Yes, he said. That is how it looks before. He reached into his coat and placed a small device on the table. A warning file, he explained. Everything we know. The council leader looked at it. And if we ignore this, he asked. The human met his eyes. Then you will learn the hard way. The room grew tense. But again, laughter broke it. You expect us to stop expansion because of stories? We are not afraid of ghosts. The human did not react. He only gave one final line. You should be. Then he turned and walked away. No anger. No shouting. Just calm. As if he already knew what would happen next. Back on the human station, the commander watched the council broadcast. He sighed. They didn't listen, the officer said quietly. The commander nodded. They never do. Outside the window, the stars looked the same. Peaceful, beautiful, but somewhere out there, something had already started moving. Slowly, silently, waking up after a very long sleep. And this time, no one was ready. The final signal came 3 hours later. Not from a fleet, not from a station, but from deep inside Sector 7. It was not a voice, not a message, just one line of data. Simple, clear, and terrifying. Containment failure detected. The commander stared at the screen. His heart felt heavy. He knew what that meant. He turned to his crew. Send it to Earth, he said, and pray we are not too late. Far away, hidden in darkness, something opened its eyes. The galaxy did not understand fear. Not yet. After the meeting of the Galactic Council, life continued as normal. Ships moved between systems. Trade routes stayed open. Civilizations argued about power, borders, and resources. They believed the human warning was just fear. They believed nothing could exist that they could not fight. They believed they were safe. But in the dark edge of Sector 7, something had already begun. The first fleet sent by the Council was strong. 20 warships, advanced weapons, the best technology from 3 powerful species. Their mission was simple. Enter Sector 7. Find the cause of the disappearances. Return with answers. The fleet commander stood on the bridge, looking at the stars ahead. Status, he asked. All systems normal. An officer replied. No unusual readings. The commander nodded. See, he said to his crew. There is nothing here. Just empty space. Some of the crew relaxed. Others were not so sure. Because even though the screen showed nothing, the silence felt wrong. Too deep, too heavy, like the space itself was watching them. Hours passed. The fleet moved deeper into Sector 7. Still nothing. No enemies. No signals. No signs of life. Then suddenly, Sir, we are picking up something. The commander turned quickly. Show me. A faint signal appeared on the main screen. Weak. Broken. But real. Source, he asked. Unknown, but it is coming from ahead. The commander smiled slightly. Finally, he said, move closer. The fleet changed course, slowly approaching the signal. As they got closer, the signal became clearer, and then they realized what it was. It was a ship, one of the missing ships, floating in space. Silent, dark. Scan it. The commander ordered. Scanning. A pause. Then the officer spoke again, confusion in his voice. No life signs. What about damage? None. The room became quiet. No damage. No life. Just empty. The commander frowned. Prepare a boarding team, he said. The boarding ship moved carefully toward the silent vessel. Lights flickered as they entered. Inside, everything looked normal. No fire. No broken systems. No signs of battle. But there was no one there. The halls were empty. The control rooms were empty. Even the escape pods were still in place. It was as if the entire crew had just disappeared. One soldier whispered, "Where did they go?" No one answered, because no one knew. Back on the main fleet, the commander watched the live feed. "Search everything," he ordered. "There must be an answer." The soldiers moved deeper into the ship, step by step, room by room. Then one of them stopped. "Commander, you need to see this." The camera turned and showed a wall, covered in marks, scratches, deep and messy, like something had tried to break through from the inside. And in the middle of it, a message, written in fear, written by hand. "They are here." The commander felt a cold wave move through his body. "What does that mean?" one officer asked. No one replied. Then suddenly, the signal cut. "Boarding team, respond," the commander shouted. No answer. "Repeat, respond." Still nothing. The room filled with tension. "What just happened?" someone whispered. Before anyone could answer, another voice came through, but it was not from the boarding team. It was from inside their own ship. "Commander?" The voice was weak, broken. The commander froze. That is Officer Relan," someone said, "but he is on the other ship." The voice came again. "Commander, do not let us see you." Then a loud sound, like something moving, fast, heavy. The transmission ended. Panic started to rise. "How is he transmitting from here?" an officer asked. "That is impossible." The commander raised his hand. "Silence," he ordered. He tried to think, tried to understand, but nothing made sense. Then, "All ships report," he commanded. One by one, ships responded. "All clear. No issues. Systems normal." But one ship did not answer. "Ship 12, respond." No reply. "Ship 12, respond." Still nothing. The commander's voice became harder. "Show me Ship 12." The screen zoomed in. Ship 12 was still there, floating in formation. No damage. No movement. "Scan it." "Scanning." The officer looked confused. No life signs. Again. No damage. No life. Just empty. Fear was no longer a whisper. It was real. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Pull back," the commander said quickly. "All ships, move out of Sector 7 now." The fleet turned. Engines activated. They started to leave. But space did not let them go. "Commander!" an officer shouted. "Our navigation system is failing." "Same here. Engines are not responding." Panic spread across every ship. The fleet was trapped. Then the stars changed. Not moved. Not disappeared. But twisted, as if space itself was bending, watching, waiting. And in the darkness between stars, something moved. Not fast. Not slow. Just moving. The commander stared at the screen. His voice became quiet. "What is that?" No one answered, because there were no words for it. Then all systems went dark. Complete silence. No lights. No sound. Only breathing. And in that darkness, a new sound appeared. Soft, almost like a whisper, but not in the air. Inside their heads. You opened it. The commander felt his heart stop. It was not a voice. It was something else. Something deeper. You were not meant to come here. Someone screamed. Another started crying. The whisper grew louder. You woke us. Then suddenly, everything came back. Lights, systems, stars. But the fleet was no longer together. Only one ship remained. The commander's ship. All others, gone. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Just gone. As if they never existed. A final transmission appeared on the screen. Not from the fleet. Not from the council. But from Earth. A single human face appeared. Calm. Serious. Not surprised. We told you not to enter Sector 7, he said. The commander could barely speak. What is this? He asked. The human looked at him. And for a moment, there was something in his eyes. Not fear. Not anger. But something worse. Regret. It is not a weapon, the human said slowly. It is not an enemy. He paused, then gave the truth. It is a mistake that should have stayed buried. The commander shook his head. We need help, he said. Please. The human did not answer. Instead, he looked past the screen, as if he could see something the others could not. Then he spoke again. It sees you now. The commander felt cold. What does that mean? The human's voice dropped. It means it will not stop. The transmission ended, and in the empty space around the last ship, the darkness moved again. Closer this time. Watching. Learning. Hunting. And this time, it knew exactly where to look. Far away, on Earth, alarms started again. Louder than before. Faster. More urgent. The same man stood in the control room. His face was no longer calm. Status, he asked. Containment is completely broken, someone replied. Spread rate increasing. The man closed his eyes. For the first time, he looked afraid. Prepare everything, he said. Because now it is not just Sector 7. He looked at the stars on the screen and whispered one final line. It is coming for all of us. The galaxy was no longer calm. Something had changed. Ships were disappearing faster now. Not just near Sector 7, but in nearby systems too. Trade routes started to shut down. Panic began to spread. But the worst part was not the disappearances. It was the silence. No explosions. No distress calls. No battles. Just nothing. As if entire fleets were being erased. On the last surviving ship in the first fleet, the commander stood alone on the bridge. The crew was still there, but no one spoke. No one moved unless necessary. They all felt it, that invisible pressure. Like something was always behind them, watching, learning, waiting. The commander stared at the screen. Any signal from the missing ships? He asked. An officer shook his head. Nothing, sir. The commander closed his eyes for a moment. Then suddenly, sir, incoming transmission. Everyone looked up. Source? The commander asked quickly. The officer hesitated. Unknown. Put on. The screen flickered. Static filled the air. Then an image appeared. Not clear, not stable, but visible. It showed a place. Dark, massive, endless structures, broken and silent. Ruins, but not normal ruins. These were too large, too advanced, too old. And in the center, something stood. A structure unlike anything they had seen before. It was not a building, not a ship, not a machine. It looked alive, but still, silent, waiting. Then a voice came. Not human, not alien, not anything they could understand. But somehow, they still knew what it meant. You are not the first. The crew froze. You are not the last. The commander felt his heart beat faster. What is this? He whispered. No one answered. Because no one could. The voice continued. This place was a prison. The image shifted, showing more ruins, more destruction, more empty worlds. Many came before you, the voice said. They tried to use it, control it, become stronger. The commander leaned forward. Use what? He asked quietly. The answer came immediately. Us. The lights on the ship flickered. Systems started to glitch. The voice grew deeper. Heavy civilizations, powerful empires, all believed they could survive. A pause. Then, they were wrong. Suddenly, the image changed. Now it showed something else. A planet. Blue. Familiar. Earth. The crew stared in shock. Why is Earth there? Someone whispered. The voice answered. They were different. The commander's eyes widened. They did not try to control us. The image zoomed in on Earth. They chose to lock us away. The transmission became unstable, but the voice pushed through. They became the wardens. Silence filled the ship. The truth was too heavy, too big. Humans were not just another species. They were the ones who had found this thing, and instead of using it, they had sealed it, hidden it, protected the galaxy from it. The commander stepped forward. "Why are you showing us this?" he asked. The voice replied slowly. "Because you open again." The ship shook violently. Alarm screamed. "Sir, we are losing control." "Stabilize!" the commander shouted. But it was too late. Something was happening. Something inside the ship. One of the crew members suddenly screamed. "They are here!" Everyone turned. The man was pointing at the air. At nothing. "They are watching us," he shouted. "I can feel them." Two others grabbed him, trying to calm him down. But his eyes were wide, full of terror. "They are inside my head," he cried. Then suddenly, he stopped. His body went still. Slowly, he turned his head and smiled. Not a normal smile. Something else. Something wrong. The commander stepped back. "Lock him down," he ordered. But before anyone could move, the man spoke again, in a voice that was not his own. "You cannot lock what is already open." The lights went out again. Darkness filled the ship, and in that darkness, shapes started to move. Not clear, not real, but there, watching. Then everything came back. The man collapsed to the floor, unconscious, alive, but changed. The commander's hands were shaking now. "What is happening to us?" he whispered. The voice answered one last time. "You are becoming visible." The transmission ended. Back on Earth, the situation was getting worse. More systems were going dark. More ships were lost. And now, reports were coming from planets. People hearing voices, seeing shadows, feeling watched. The man in the control room stood still. "This is spreading faster than predicted," someone said. The man nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, "because they are not just in one place anymore." He looked at the main screen, at the map of the galaxy. Red points were appearing. More and more. "They are not moving through space," he said quietly. "They are moving through minds." A younger officer looked confused. "What does that mean?" The man answered. "It means distance does not matter." The room went silent, because now they understood. This was not a normal threat. This was not an enemy you could fight. It was something else. Something that did not follow rules. "Can we stop it?" the officer asked. The man did not answer immediately. He thought, remembered, then finally spoke. "We stopped it once," he said, "but that was a long time ago." He looked at the screen again, at the spreading red points. "This time it is awake." Back in Sector 7, the last human ship entered the system. Small, silent, but different. Unlike the others, it did not panic. It did not run. It moved forward, directly toward the center, toward the ancient structure. Inside the ship, a single human stood, wearing old armor, holding no weapon, only a device. Ancient, simple, but powerful. He looked at the darkness ahead and spoke one line. "We are still here." The space around him reacted. The shadows moved. The pressure increased. But he did not step back, because humans had faced this before, long ago, when they were weaker, when they were afraid. But they had learned, they had survived, and they had made a choice, not to destroy it, but to contain it. Now, that choice was broken, and the galaxy was paying the price. The human closed his eyes and activated the device. A wave moved through space, silent, invisible, but powerful. For a moment, everything stopped. The shadows froze. The whispers faded. The darkness paused. But only for a moment. Then, it pushed back, stronger, angrier, more awake than ever before. The human opened his eyes, and for the first time, he smiled, not with fear, but with understanding. Good, he said softly. Now I know you remember us. Far across the galaxy, every sensitive mind felt it. That moment, that clash between something ancient and something human, and deep inside the darkness, something answered, not with words, but with intent. Clear, cold, final. It was no longer hiding, no longer waiting. It had chosen, and now it was coming. The galaxy had never seen this before. Not war, not destruction. Something worse. Planets were still there. Stars were still shining. But minds were changing. People started hearing whispers. Not loud, not clear, but always there. Watching, waiting, learning. Across many worlds, leaders lost control. Some systems went silent. Others turned against themselves. Ships refused to move. AI stopped working. And the worst part, no one could explain it. On Earth, the final stage had begun. Deep underground, inside the hidden command center, every screen was active. Every signal was monitored. Every second mattered. The man in charge stood in the center. This time he was not calm. Status, he said. A voice replied quickly. Spread is now at 40% of known space. Another voice added. Contact with outer colonies lost. The man nodded slowly. He had expected this, just not this fast. Prepare the gate, he ordered. The room froze. No one moved. A young officer looked at him. Sir, if we activate it. He could not finish the sentence, because everyone knew what it meant. The man completed it for him. Yes, he said. If we activate it, Earth will not survive. Silence. Heavy. Final. Far away. Inside Sector 7, the lone human ship stood before the ancient structure. The darkness around it was no longer hiding. It moved freely now, like a living ocean of shadows, watching the human, testing him. Inside the ship, the human soldier stood still. The device in his hand was glowing softly. He looked at the structure. Then he spoke. You were not meant to escape. The darkness reacted, shifting, rising. A presence filled the space. Massive, endless. You were not meant to exist. Something answered. The voice was not sound. It was thought, direct, cold. The human did not move. You are right, he said calmly. We were not meant to exist. A pause. Then he added, but we learned how to fight anyway. The darkness moved closer, wrapping around the ship, testing its limits. You cannot fight us, it replied. We are beyond you. The human smiled slightly. Yes, he said. That is why we never tried to destroy you. Back on Earth, alarms started to rise. The gate was being activated. Massive energy built up under the planet. Old systems, hidden for thousands of years, came online again. This was not human technology alone. It was something older, something learned, something dangerous. The young officer looked at the commander. Sir, is there no other way? The man shook his head. No, he said. There never was. He looked at the screen. At the human ship in Sector 7. At the beginning, he said quietly, we tried to destroy it. The scene shifted. Old records played. Images from the past. Ancient human ships. Weapons firing. Explosions across space. And still, the darkness remained. Untouched. Unharmed. We failed, the man said. So, we changed our plan. The images changed again. This time, they showed Earth, being surrounded by massive structures. Seals. Locks. Barriers. Not to protect Earth from the galaxy, but to protect the galaxy from what was inside. We became the prison, he said. The room went silent, because now they understood. Earth was not just a home. It was a cage. Back in Sector 7, the darkness closed in. You cannot contain us again, it said. We are already free. The human nodded slowly. Yes, he said. You are. Then he raised the device. But we are not trying to contain you. The darkness paused. For the first time, it hesitated. What are you doing? It asked. The human looked directly into it and gave the final truth. We are moving you. At that exact moment, the gate on Earth activated. A massive wave of energy shot across space. Not random, not uncontrolled, precise, focused. It connected directly to Sector 7, to the structure, to the darkness. The galaxy felt it. Every mind, every system, every living thing. A pull, a shift, like reality itself was bending. The darkness reacted violently. This is not possible, it roared. But it was too late. The connection was already made. Back on Earth, the commander gave the final order. Execute transfer. The young officer's hands were shaking. Coordinates locked, he said. Target. The commander took a deep breath. Then he answered, outside the galaxy. Silence. Then, yes, sir. In Sector 7, the human ship started to break apart. The pressure was too strong. The energy too massive. But the human did not move. He stood his ground, watching, waiting. The darkness screamed, "You will destroy yourselves." The human smiled. "Yes," he said, "we know." The gate reached full power. The pull became stronger. The darkness started to move. Not freely anymore. Dragged, forced, taken. Across the galaxy, the whispers stopped. The shadows faded. The pressure lifted. Slowly, everything became quiet again. Back in the command center, the final countdown began. 10. The commander closed his eyes. 9. He thought about Earth, about humanity, about everything they had built. 8. He whispered, "We were never weak." 3, 2, 1. The gate fired completely. A blinding wave crossed space. Sector 7 disappeared. The ancient structure vanished. The darkness was gone, and Earth went silent. Days later, the galaxy slowly recovered. Systems came back online. Ships returned. People started to understand what had happened. A final message was sent to the Galactic Council. Not a warning, not a threat, but a record, a truth. Humanity was never holding back because they were weak. A pause. They were holding back because they were the only ones strong enough to carry the burden. The message ended. In the empty space where Earth once was, nothing remained. No planet, no signal, no life, but far beyond the galaxy, in a place no one could reach, something moved. Far away, far from everything. And with it, a small signal appeared. Weak, but alive. A human voice. Calm, steady, unbroken. Containment successful. And then, silence. The galaxy would never see humanity again, but it would always remember one thing. They were not the strongest. They were not the most advanced. They were the ones who chose to stand between everything and the end.